Hi there. Let's go over the answers to our topic 1 review on static electricity. First, let's look at the vocab that you had to do. So, unbalanced charges. Well, when we look at this atom, an object that has unbalanced charges means that it has more electrons than protons, or more protons than electrons, which gives it an overall charge of either negative or positive. An insulator is a substance that strongly resists the flow of electricity. Some examples of good insulators are wood, plastic. Conductors are materials with electric charge that electric charge can move through it very easily, and so it passes right through the object. Metals are good conductors. In the case of conductors, though, there's always a little bit of electrical resistance. Which is friction from the electrons, and a little bit of heat is generated as a consequence. However, they've discovered superconductors, which means they take an element, often a metal, but doesn't have to be, it could be helium, and they supercool it to almost absolute zero in some cases. So not quite, because we can't reach absolute zero, but minus 273 degrees Celsius. And what we found out is when we make a superconductor by cooling it down really, really low, the material allows electrons to flow so easily that there is no resistance involved. So, for example, the maglev train is built with superconductors, superconductive metals. Number 2, what does it mean when an object is able to carry an electric charge? And then explain how electric charges can be produced. For an object to carry an electric charge, it will attract or repel another object, usually after being rubbed, touched. So it's either the object, for example, maybe a balloon, has, after rubbing, has picked up extra electrons, or lost electrons, so that now overall it's unbalanced and maybe is positive. So now both these balloons are carrying electric charges. One has picked up excess electrons, and so overall it's unbalanced and has overall negative charge on it. This balloon has somehow lost electrons, and now its overall charge is positive. Why does the phrase unbalanced charges represent a more accurate than static electricity? Well, unbalanced is better because static, the term static means stationary, and that's not really what's happening. Electrons aren't stationary. Ben Franklin was the first to use the terms positive and negative as they relate to electric charges in the structure of an atom. What are the positive charges? What are the negative? How does an object acquire a positive charge, and how does it acquire a negative? So positive charges in the atom are the protons, negative the electrons. A positive charge, an overall positive charged object like a balloon that overall has positive charges on the surface here, means that it lacks some electrons, and the opposite. If the balloon was negative, overall negative, and therefore unbalanced, it would have excess. What's the law, the 3 laws of electric charges? Number 1, unlike charges attract. So that's what this is showing. These are 2 little pith balls. So unlike charges will attract each other. Like charges will repel. So positive and positive will push away from each other. And negative. and charged objects attract uncharged. So if here's no charge, nothing happens, but if I now hang an object and it overall had a positive charge, there would be a slight attraction between the balanced with the unbalanced. Or if I hang a negative one there, it would be slightly attracted to the no charge. What's the difference between rubbing a rubber balloon and a metallic? When you rub a rubber balloon, the charges stay in one place, whereas when you rub a metallic balloon, the metal conductor allows the charges to move all over the surface. What's the difference between insulators and conductors? Conductors allow charges to move freely, and they're usually metals. Insulators do not, and they're usually non-metals. Cotton, glass, paper, plastic, wood. 2 applications of superconductors, and why do people use them? Superconductors are components in electric generators, lots of high voltage power lines, and supercomputers, and they use them because they don't generate any heat, because there's no resistance or friction, and so they allow the transmission of information to go really quickly. When you take the clothes out of the dryer and you see them spark, what's happening? Clothes coming out of the dryer spark because there's an electric discharge as it's accumulated on the clothes. What's the purpose of grounding an object? Grounding an object is easy to neutralize things, so the earth is large, so it can easily help dissipate enough electrons to neutralize something. So often cars on their bumpers, if you've ever noticed, will have a little plastic thing hanging down, and that helps to ground the car, not to pick up any friction. Or if you've noticed tanker trucks that have gas in them, so big tanker trucks have gas in them, and before he puts gasoline into the tanks of a station that go underground, he usually takes a little pole and discharges so that he doesn't create any sparks. With all the gasoline fumes in the air, if that creates a spark, you can definitely get a huge explosion. Number 11, describe a situation in which electrostatic discharge could pose a problem, and explain how this problem could be solved. Describe an application. Photocopiers, with all the friction going on with the paper, that could cause the photocopier to not work properly. Air filters and fabric softeners are all positive examples of helping electrical discharge.